Greetings, everyone. This is Jim Adams, Strategies, and we're so glad you could find time to join us with the third installment of the Site Midwest educational webinar trilogy. What can be done to improve our industry? And we've actually got some real benefits today because we're going to have 4 panelists for the price of 3. Madalyn Marusa is going to join us in a little bit. She's getting off a plane, and one of her coworkers who's an expert in some of this subject matter, Cindy Hall from New Orleans, is online with us, and we're real happy that that can happen. So we're going to talk about the best practices in communicating with clients and in third parties, best practices in industry outreach, media, marketing, communications, and how we're looking for trend forecasting, as we always do in our industry, to see what's coming next. So I'm Jim Adams. I was the founder, and now I'm the Chief Rules Officer at the Performance Strategies in Indianapolis, Indiana. And then joining us today, we're extremely glad to have Bob Drenka. Bob is the sales manager for the South Central region of Emirates Airline. He began his career with American Airlines in Chicago after his junior year of college, starting with the Sky Chefs, and he's held various operation positions from the ramp up all the way through the airport, and then he moved into Sabre for 2 years, and then joined the Chicago sales team in territory and account management, and then 2 years in convention and company meetings sales. Bob became the sales manager for American in Atlanta, and after 7 years was promoted to global sales at American Airlines headquarters. He was responsible for Fortune 100 corporate accounts and the top TMZ targets. Bob joined Emirates in 2012 as sales manager for the South Central region when Emirates initiated nonstop service from DFW to Dubai. In 2016, he assumed a new role of manager for MICE and association sales for North America, including Canada. In his role, he's responsible for the development of the MICE market segment, focus on growing U.S. points of sale, business with incentives and meetings, and utilizing Dubai and Emirates Airlines to work. And they fly to over 165 worldwide destinations in 82 countries. He's a native of Chicago and a graduate of DePaul. He's also an avid golfer, skier, and lifelong Cubs, Bears, and Blackhawks fan, which lost you about half the audience right now, Bob. And Bob and his wife, Lucy, now call Dallas-Fort Worth their home. Next we have with us Liz Vinsand, and Liz is Director of National Accounts for Vail Resorts and Co-Vice President of Events. She's, for our chapter, she's been in the meeting and industry for about 30 years on both the planner and supplier side. As a global sales manager for Vail Resorts, she enjoys working with clients to help them find the perfect mountain destination for their event. She's served on committees and boards of several industry organizations, including MPI, PCMI, SITE. She currently serves as co-VP of the amazing Site Midwest chapter, and in her spare time, she enjoys volunteering, traveling, and spending time with her family. I should also mention that Liz is one of those people that is a true veteran of the industry. She went to work for Emirates right out of college and then worked her way up without going the usual travel director route into event planning, and eventually left and went to the sales side with the hotels. Our third panelist is Madalyn Marusa, who's going to join us shortly. She's the Vice President of Industry Relations and Strategic Initiatives for PRA Business Events. She's got her DMCP and her CIS designations. Madalyn's been with PR Destination Management since '83, serving a broad base of corporate and incentive clientele. In 1998, when PRA launched its franchise company expansion, she began to oversee key areas of business development for the corporation, national marketing, industry relations, and trade show initiatives. Today, she continues to support the global sales team on strategic initiatives and projects specializing in the incentive group marketplace. She's an active leader and a longtime standing member of the site and MPI, and she's served on many, many committees, has been the past president of SDMPI and Site SoCal. She is also active in the Association of Destination Management Company Executives, ADMEI, and served on the International Board for 10 years. The past year, PRA honored Madalyn with a Patty Roscoe Lifetime Achievement Award, as she is going to go on and do some consulting with them. And she has been in the industry as long as I have, and is firsthand witness to many of the changes. Then our final panelist is going to be Cindy Hayes, who joined PRA New Orleans in September 2013 as Director of Sales after an extensive career with Hyatt Hotels, where she held numerous positions in sales and events. She's a native of New Orleans and just recently was certified by the American Hotel and Lodging Association as a certified hospitality instructor. She's an active member of Site Minnesota, MPI Gulf States, the Greater New Orleans Hotel Lodging Association, and is currently a hospitality adjunct instructor at a local community college. Due to the tremendous efforts of her team, PRA New Orleans was recently named to one of the fastest growing private companies in America by the Inc. 5000 for the third time in 4 years. They're also a 5-time winner of PRA's highest client satisfaction award. Bob, Liz, Madalyn, Cindy, I want to welcome you and thank you for the time and joining us for this seminar. And now we're going to get into some of the meat of the discussion today. And the first thing we're going to talk about is appropriate communications with clients and third parties. And I'm going to ask the group, what form of communications do you believe works best with your different clientele? Email, phone, text, messaging, etc. Who'd like to start that?
Sure, this is Cindy. I'm happy to take that one.
Okay.
I think it really depends on what works best for the client themselves. Sometimes it depends on whether the client is on site, and in that case they usually prefer texting just because it's faster and they don't have to sort through emails. But if they're really in the pre-planning stage, then usually email or phone is what is preferred. And then to take that just one step further, it's going to actually be really driven by the client themselves. Some clients like to talk through everything, and other clients just really prefer to have it all in email so that they can read it at their own pace whenever it's best for them.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Yeah,
Jim,
I mean,
it's Liz.
this is Bob Drenka. Oh, okay, Liz, you go.
Let's start with Liz, and we'll go to Bob. Go ahead, Liz.
Okay, thank you. I would totally echo what Cindy just shared. I would say communication is key in judging on, ask the client what works best for them. I would say, for me, I find that email is certainly the communication method of choice. I'm starting to text a little bit more. What I'm finding with the texting is unless you have that conversation and maybe you say to the client, hey, here's my cell phone number, feel free to text me. I think that conversation needs to be had. I'll give you an example. I'm traveling this week and I got a text yesterday from a client that said, hey, sorry I missed you this week in Dallas. I'd love to catch up. I have their phone number because they're not stored in my phone. I have no idea who it is. So it's kind of awkward to go back and say, okay, I'd love to catch up with you, but remind me who this is, right? So I think just, ask the client what works. If you're going to go to that, where you're going to start that line of communication via text, maybe ask the client if it's okay if you text them, or vice versa. Say, hey, here's my number. Feel free to, to text me. I'm also noticing with phone calls too, we used to be able to pick up the phone and call any client at any time. Maybe you'd catch them, maybe you wouldn't. You'd leave a voicemail and they would call you back as their time allowed. But now I'm noticing, and I know I do it as well, internally, externally, we're scheduling time to talk. So that seems to be an efficient way to make sure that you're going to get on someone's calendar and you're not going to call them at a time where they might be in the middle of doing something else. So, yeah, again, finding that scheduling time seems to be a trend of late.
Okay. Bob?
Yeah, I think from the airline standpoint, at least on the Emirates side, we find because we're planning relatively far out, we normally do via email. And email allows us to include many of the documents that we're promoting, whether it's a brochure or information, but then also our agreements that we would end up signing. And so that tends to be the best way to do that. What we also then do, as we're either getting closer to implementation of a program, we will sometimes then set up conference calls if they bring in another group, whether it's like their agency of record. And so then we will have that via conference call. But normally I think for us it's been working well with email and then limited amount of in-person phone calling, but and that usually is going to be in the form of a conference call.
All right, we're going to go in reverse order of how you just spoke, and I'm going to ask the question combined. What communications have improved most over your career, and what communication difficulties are you facing currently? Bob?
I think over my career, I think obviously the internet and the ability to email, and that I think is both good and bad, because I think what's now happened is the email process works really well and it provides a kind of a checkpoint of the things we've done. But then I think what we're noticing is that one of the difficulties with that is that it's speeded up the response time and the expectation of responses. And I think that's been somewhat something that you have to manage, not only between you and the client, but then also your home office and the need to get things done in a very compressed time frame. And so that has caused changes within our companies to get, contracts done, signatures done, et cetera, because it seems as if the response or the need for a response is very, very quickly, and that then causes everyone else in the pipeline within the company to act that much quicker. So I guess they're almost the same thing. The email and the ability to communicate in that vehicle is great, but it also has caused us to need faster response times.
Well, that's a great point about balancing between the client and the home office, the quickness and response. As salespeople, we always face the sky is falling kind of scenario depending upon which way we're facing, client or home office. That's a great point, Bob. Liz, what communications have you improved? What's been a problem?
Yes. Absolutely, and I'd love to say that I had something new. Bob, you totally took both of my answers, so just speaking on the fly, I remember when we first got email via internet, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I mean, it certainly changed the way that we communicate, but to Bob's point, we don't ever get away from it. You know, we travel with smartphones. My email is on the phone, or is on my phone, and, you know, I think that has definitely caused, you know, the expectation that clients are going to get an immediate response, and that can be really tough when you're traveling. And, you know, if you go a day or so where it takes you time to get back to your email, you know, that's not great. So, and then also, too, with some of the security features now on email, you know, my company has set up, I've got a clutter folder, I have a spam folder, I have proof, you know, proof points. So there's so many different ways to catch kind of spam emails. So in some cases, I've noticed that, you know, I've missed an email. So maybe a client will follow up and say, hey, I didn't hear from you, and I don't recall getting an email, and I'll have to go through and check multiple folders that it could have gotten, you know, caught in. So I think that's one, you know, that's a difficulty that I'm finding.
Sure. Cindy?
Well, it definitely has gotten a lot faster with email. Way back in the day when you received something like a signed contract and came through FedEx, that was urgent, right? Then came the fax machine, and now I think one of the problems that everyone faces is that your inbox can be cluttered with so much email. What is truly priority? And then when it comes to the actual communication and the time frame, a lot of times it's very easy for people to go just radio silent, and that you might not know the reason why they've gone radio silent. It could be because, you know, they've got too much on their plate, they're not ready to focus on something at that given time. So if you haven't set the expectation with the client or the vendor on time frames, then radio silence could be misinterpreted.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. You know, one of the points that you all made was about the emails and the spam filters and stuff. At our company, we try to use the message functions on the phone now to send big documents. And because we always know if they went through, and it usually gets us a much quicker response because they can look at something on the fly where maybe they didn't have email access, but they've got message access. So I just leave that as a thought for our audience. So our next slide is about the industry outreach, media communications, and discussions. So what I like to know is how you gauge the appropriate amount of communication to clients and to third parties. Liz, would you start us off with this one?
Sure, I'd be happy to. You know, I just, thinking about this question, I just said, you know, to ask the client, set the expectation, and understand, you know, their timeline.
Okay.
Can anybody hear me?
Oh, hi, Madalyn. How are you?
Hello there. I've been trying a bit, and I'm trying to call in, but go for it. Cindy's doing great. Yep.
So, Liz, anything else on that?
No, again, just, you know, asking the client. I think instead of gauging or assuming, you know, just you know, keep open lines of communication and ask them, you know, kind of what their, you know, what their preference is, what their timeline is, how often they want to, you know, hear from you.
Right. Hey, Madalyn.
Yes, sir.
I know you're kind of old school, and you might call somebody 20 times in a week if they wanted you to get them an answer by Friday and they're not working with you. Do you still practice that?
Well, that's, you know, always interesting when they need it right away and you rush it and then you call to make sure they got it and they're off that day. But I like to think that people are getting it there so that when they're back they can work on it And just like everything else, sometimes our suppliers don't call us right back, or they've got something else going. And I think we're in that protection mode. We ask our clients for deadlines. Sometimes you can talk to them about what's reasonable. I do believe that the younger generation is much better at asking for the time than we were. I hear it all the time, much more assertive, maybe realistic. I think we had a fear of sometimes saying no. But my best story with FedEx was that I had a running line at the San Diego airport where someone would jump in the car every day, and I would drive that package down to get it on the FedEx plane to one of the incentive houses. And, there's just so many more opportunities now. And also with the online sharing of proposals, you are setting up an appointment to review them with clients. So I think things have improved.
Okay. Hey, Bob, do you think there's a big difference, a level of communications that you should do with a direct client versus a third-party incentive house?
No, I mean, we really treat each one, kind of the same, because I think they're both needing whatever they're needing from us, and it really depends on the time frame of where we're at, whether we're in the prospecting mode and kind of providing information, or have we moved to the contract mode and implementation. So it kind of probably depends on where we're at in the sales cycle. Depends on how our communication either increases or is minimal. One of the things that we also do in communication is we do a lot of kind of team selling within from the Emirates, Dubai, and kind of DMC standpoint, and even hotel standpoint. We do a lot of road shows, sales blitzing, in which all of us, meaning myself and then my colleagues at Arabian Adventures and Dubai Business Events, and even sometimes we'll go with Jumeirah Hotels or whatever, but we'll go and do in-person blitzing, just because I think probably our destination and some of our products are not as well known in the U.S., and so we've found that kind of getting on calendars and being able to do in-person communications and presentations is really, really effective. And then from there, we've established that rapport, which allows us then to follow up through kind of follow-up email going forward. But that's been beneficial for us in the way we try to manage our product and our destination.
Okay. Madalyn or Cindy, how do your companies approach using media and marketing when you're working with your clients?
Okay, so Cindy, you want me to take
ahead.
this? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're fortunate with a little bit bigger company, and Cindy can certainly talk from a single office standpoint, but we have seen the need for more consistent marketing in time. And so with 28 offices now, we do have a marketing group that works with us on our marketing materials. They don't know our clients, so it's always up to the person working with them to communicate what's needed. But to get it consistent, to get it out in a timely basis, I know one of the things when you're running programs and doing bids in the day-to-day DMC, you don't always have time to do that marketing. So I think we've had to find ways to really keep us top of mind. Now, on the individual programs, I like to think of it as, 4 seasons, if you will. One, you start the RFP or the bid process, and that's really about, developing that relationship. You use some marketing in the capability stage of what you're about, but I find it gets really into that sales process and, uncovering the client's objections, qualifying, getting through all those steps, maybe not quite as much marketing in that day-to-day client relationship, but certainly on an annual basis, you need to stay top of mind.
Okay. Bob, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, what we do at Emirates, we have a number of online publications that we do. One is called EK. EK is our two-letter airline code, but we do EK at a glance, and it comes out quarterly. And so we send those out to people that we have put on our mailing list. We also have a commercial newsletter that comes out kind of almost on an every 2 months basis, or depending on what is happening. And it just is an update on things that are relevant and new that is happening within the Emirates, whether it's new markets starting up, changes to, our baggage policy or, whatever it may be. But that comes out. And then we also have an online tool which we encourage people to sign up for, which is at emiratesagents.com. And it's really our internal sales support information piece that you can just access at any time and can look up what is the policy on refunds or fare waiver or whatever. And so it lists all of those things so that somebody does not have to reach out to me personally or to our sales support, but it has it at their fingertips. So we're very big on providing online information that people can go to so that they don't have to then reach out to somebody just because that takes that much more time to get that answer. So we try to make it easy to find that information through either those online pieces or the Emirates Agents program.
Thank you. Cindy, I don't know if you've got time to answer this or not, but I do think you'd be a perfect response for this. Do you send out a task list, a to-do list to your third-party vendors, no matter what size, the quote, just to make sure you're on the same page with your suppliers as you are with sales prospects?
I do not, to be quite honest. We don't send any sort of task or to-do list to our vendors. We primarily communicate through email or phone, and then as we are putting our documentation together, run a show for our clients, all of that information is reconfirmed with our suppliers.
Okay.
I will say, though, to add to Cindy, Jim, we do get a lot of in writing from our clients in what they want. So we do see a lot more of the third party, putting the detail down, gathering more, asking more questions. So we are getting some paperwork these days rather than just a phone call.
Okay. Great. Liz, anything you wanted to add?
I'll simply add, too, that just, the media marketing, making sure that our websites are up to date. A lot of times we'll direct clients directly to our websites where we keep pictures and details on our hotels and our venues and sample itineraries, knowing that in a lot of cases, that's the first place a client, direct or third party, might be starting their education. So again, we work closely with our marketing department just to make sure that our website is looking good and sharp and giving clients, enticing them enough that they want to, reach out to us with an RFP.
Great. And then moving on, we're going to talk about keeping your delivered product fresh and innovative. What publications or resources do you utilize to keep your product unique and creative? Madalyn, can you lead this?
Well, I don't know that we use publications of that nature. I think for the DMC, we are always looking for new things. new venues, exclusives in our destination. You know, you get about 6 months to market something when you find it before all your competitors find it. And, you know, my example is when I snuck on the base years ago for NAS Miramar to, you know, book a huge program. I got to do it probably 5 times before all my competitors, you know, were there looking for the rates and how to do it. And certainly with something like that, they're not going to say no. But I do believe that we are, you know, we use our organizations, all of the local things we go to, even our vendors constantly become, investigators for us out in the community to what's new, what's hot. And, you know, I think they encourage other vendors to come share with us because basically we help market those smaller vendors.
And Liz, I think if we took the word publication out of this, other than like CVB communications or something like that, it'd be a little bit clearer for our audience. So, what type of resources do you all use to make sure your mountain products staying fresh and viable and exciting?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Being on the hotel side, you know, we definitely tap into our DMCs and what they're doing within the resort. Talking to, other clients to see what they're seeing out there that's new and different. I read a lot, whether they are, magazines, publications, newsletters. I attend events. I think that's one thing, a lot of events in our industry, we are the leaders of, what's new out there and we're innovative. So, again, going to a site event where you can see, what they're doing in the way of entertaining and decor and food and beverage. We also, I tend to look at Pinterest a little bit as well and just kind of see, what colors are new or what the latest trend is, and then you find those ideas and work with your partners to, implement and actually, design the events. Because as you all know nowadays, I have clients saying, hey, what can we do that no one else has done? And, we constantly need to be finding those, those cool events that we can deliver to our clients.
That's a great point, Pinterest. That's just a great point. They are the voice of the people with pictures to match. For somebody with my simple education, that's a great way to learn what's trending that I wouldn't know otherwise, unless I ask my daughters. All right. So what challenges have you all encountered with your competitors in this venue about maybe a little bit overselling on their part, maybe not a complete picture? I would go back to, we had a conversation among ourselves at rehearsal yesterday, and we were talking about like the internet can be a problem because at the internet they've always got the lowest price room in a hotel, and there's like 2 rooms like that, and there's a group block. Clients can't understand why they can't get that room next to the elevator and ice machine pricing for their whole group when they want to take up half the hotel and all the suites. Same thing, Madalyn, with things like transfers. The difference between having a 16-passenger bus that goes on a rotation and then people wait 45 minutes for the next one versus having 4 dedicated buses, 66 seats, so everybody gets there about the same time. So what have you seen some competition do that you wish would not happen, and maybe as an industry we try to self-regulate more? I'm opening that up to the group.
So, Jim, it's Liz. I will make a comment on that one. Vail Resorts, we operate mountain destinations. We have some hotels within our resorts, but not all of them. So we definitely have to play well with our competitors in the sand. We want, first and foremost, we're promoting the destination. And then me as a salesperson, ideally, I'd love for you to stay at one of my hotels. I often find that when there is a new hotel that comes to one of our resorts, they open, their rates are aggressive, they're undercutting, we're constantly losing business to them. But I choose to kind of look at it from the other side and say, hey, you know what, let them give it away. And then when they're full and they've given it away and they have nothing else, then we'll take, the customers and get the rates, that we should be getting at that time. So, maybe less, I don't want to say undercutting, but, I think just to maybe see a change in that in our industry when new hotels or, if a hotel's been renovated and they're trying to kind of, get that exposure, their rates tend to drop quite a bit. So we do see that in our resorts.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I love what Liz said, and you're absolutely right. If you keep undercutting everyone, you probably won't be in business for long. That's kind of the reality of where money goes. But in our world, because we cost from scratch on everything we do, we find some very interesting things. And one of the things, we have a policy of costing inclusively, where we will see our competitors price the hours they say, but then they don't factor in the spot to release time. And then they go back after the fact and ask the client for more. It's been my experience in a third party that it's very hard to go back and do that. The prices are set. You quote, you bid. I never thought it that ethical to go back after the fact. And so those are some of the tricks we find that happen.
And we've had people try to pull those tricks on us, and we can't change. As you know, once we do a contract with a client, we are stuck. So if somebody got us stuck, they're going to stay stuck with us, not come apart. So how do you all keep your product in front of your customers? I mean, you're a diverse group of people. You're DMC with big consolidation. You've got mountain resorts, which are definitely time and season sensitive. And you've got an airline that has a major hub halfway around the world. So you've all got unique challenges in what you do. How do you keep your products in front of your customers? Bob, would you start on this?
Sure, Jim. I think one of the things that we really try to do, and as I mentioned earlier, selling Dubai and then selling Emirates and some of the other things that we sell in that part of the world are not as top of mind as some of the things that are sold in the U.S. And so one thing there's a number of strategies that we use. One is we work closely with our Dubai business events team and Dubai tourism, in which every year we do a road show that will go out to probably 5 to 7 cities, usually in the springtime. And then we try to target the top incentive type accounts to attend those sessions that happen in those markets. And then we also work closely with Dubai Business Events and with Arabian Adventures and some of our DMC partners and hotel partners to actually do targeted sales blitzing. And so we have found that getting in front of customers and doing in-person presentations or webinars have been very, very successful for us. Just because it raises the awareness of our product, which a lot of people may have not been as familiar with as with other carriers and other key destinations in the incentive market. And then we also lastly, we have, as I mentioned, some of those communication pieces that can be sent out either via mail or online. And I guess this kind of goes back to one of the benefits of, how communication has changed. We now are able to send a PowerPoint presentation via email to a client that has all of the most recent information, our route map, updates on our cabin, upgrades in first class, business class, and economy. So it's real-time ability to get that in front of somebody, and we can do that just by clicking a button and sending it off. So we do it in many different ways, and then I think just even individual sales calls, like with some large accounts, we try to have almost a quarterly review session, opportunity discussions, meeting with sales teams to identify, hey, what's in the pipeline? Can we look at putting, a Dubai program in with this client? What do we need to do? Are there things that we can provide to help push that along? So I think we do a number of things to kind of maintain the exposure of our product within the MICE market and within the incentive market and with the incentive houses.
Okay. Hey, Liz, with a product that probably naturally is top of mind 7 to 8 months a year, but you've got to promote it all 12 months. So what do you do to keep the mountain resorts fresh in people's minds?
Well, Jim, clearly I need to get into your office because we are now, our mountain destinations, we're really selling more as year-round. A lot of times with Vail, you'd mentioned Vail Resorts and people automatically think of that winter time, which is still our peak time. But mountains in the summertime, they used to be kind of our best kept secret. And so they are becoming more popular. So really, there's a couple of times, maybe the month of May, the month of October, early November, that are, need times for us. So we are definitely becoming more of a year-round destination. So, just keeping that education going is obviously something that I'm tasked with and somewhat challenged with. But I read something, and I believe I don't know if it's 7 to 10 touches before you actually get an opportunity. So, to Bob's point, some of that just staying top of mind with a customer, I'll try whatever I can just, again, to stay top of mind. So we are doing the in-market events. We're doing the sales blitzes, the individual sales calls. We do quarterly newsletters to a lot of our third-party customers. With our company, if I can have anything to any reason to reach out to a client, whether it's a promotion or maybe we've done a renovation and we've got kind of new news to share, I definitely like to have things that I can, if it's quarterly, just trying to, touch base with customers. And I also try to be active in the industry and, attend monthly luncheons and attend networking events. So, again, you can see people and you can continue to stay top of mind.
So I can vouch for that because, yeah, you are. Let me just say one thing about Liz, and I could say the same thing about Madalyn. They don't just talk about industry involvement. They both have worked tirelessly, both in front and behind the scenes, helping run chapters, events, fundraisers across the board. So, Madalyn, now it's you.
Well, I was going to say we've got a two-prong approach with our local office, and Cindy can speak to hers. But one of the things that's worked very, everyone's bombarded by emails. We realize that. So that's where your 7 to 10 touches come in, Liz, I'm pretty sure. And so I try and do a monthly little bit of thought leadership piece where It might not just be all DMC, but maybe something relative that people might use. And then we try and get our offices to talk a little bit more about what's hot, what's new in their destinations, and perhaps a twist on things. What my New York office became very well known for their Fun Fact Friday. Quick, easy, and the funny thing is the clients liked it, but even our local hotel communities loved it as a way of understanding and learning their destination. So it was able to be used both ways. And then, Cindy, I want you to talk about the online marketing.
Sure. So we have a website called nolameetings.com, and it houses 50 videos on there that are experiences that our clients would have for their guests. So if you're wondering what a swamp boat tour looks like or feels like, you can go to that website, find the video under activities, and it's almost like being there yourself. So it works really well for clients who can't come down and do a site inspection. But we use that as a doubly in the fact that we put those links in our sales proposals as well, and that really gives us a competitive advantage.
I love me a swamp tour, by the way. Cindy.
I'm
Can't
sorry?
beat 'em. I said I love a swamp tour. They're just the best.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to talk about how to predict up-and-coming trends. So what resources do you all use to predict new trends in the industry? For instance, right now there's a webinar going on by one of the hoteliers in the CVB about having a completely neutral footprint on the planet, which has been kind of a hot trend for about 8 years. So what do you all use and look for to predict what the next trends are?
I can go. This
So,
is
Bob,
Drenka.
you start. Let's go through our routine we did.
Sure. We do use the resources that the site information, some of the research that they do. So we'll look at some of that data. The other thing we do, and we started this last year, was for the first time Emirates did an incentive advisory meeting with top 10 to 12 key customers for a 2-day event, and we really tried to kind of pick their brains. We had senior management at that event so that we could understand kind of what is happening in the incentive market, some of the trends, and kind of heard it kind of firsthand from them. And then when we do some of our calls and our meetings, one of the key pieces of any of our sales calls is to really spend time talking about, from our side, it's mostly kind of the destinations. What are the hot destinations? Where are people looking to go to? And then we kind of try to understand also what the price points are from a dollar figure, what amount of money is being allocated for airfare in any program. And then we kind of understand where we kind of fit in, and are we seeing an increase where some programs are, for long-haul programs, are using more business class, et cetera, so that becomes an opportunity for us. But that's pretty much what we do, use the site information and then kind of hands-on type things that we do with our clients.
Madalyn? Thank you, Bob.
Well, we love this. Obviously the site index, DMCs were blessed because they also did a special study for DMC, so we got a little bit out of that on, maybe new trends or preferences. And we also know things need to be customized for a couple generations. But for us, it's not always the statistics that we need because we do poll our clients on their satisfaction level, so we can share that with other clients on, if we have 8 or 10 activities what 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 was the best one, or who rated it the highest. So we keep those kind of internal stats, but for the most part, it's paying attention to the world around you for us for trends, colors, food, fashion, really, current events. We're always about the movies and what's coming out next. People love themes, and, maybe it's not as themed as it was 10 years ago because we're doing a lot more mood decorating and, enhancements and kind of subtle kinds of decor these days. But it always seems to take a flair on an interactive night if it's not a destination-oriented theme. Sometimes these want to do something unique and for ourselves come from trends. And I think the biggest trend that we've been focusing on is food. Oh, God.
And Liz, I'm going to take your previous answer by looking at Pinterest, and that's going to be one of those things that I take back from this seminar, and I'm glad that I was able to listen in because that's what a great place to get ideas about trends and looking at Pinterest. So we're almost done here, folks, and we're going to ask you to do part of a survey at the very end with Bob. And I'm going to go with Madalyn right now and Liz, and I'm going to ask them a question that I'm sure you've all had on your mind, and that is, what's the biggest change you've seen in the industry over the last 20 years? What concerns you most about the next 20? And what are you encouraged about the next 20? Madalyn, why don't you start us off with that?
Okay, I'll take a little part of this. Obviously, business, the changes have been a big time on technology for all of us. When I think of when I came in the workforce and started with this electric typewriter and a telex machine to get my quotes all over, it's definitely come a long way for that. Even stopping at the phone booth on site inspections to dial to tell the next one you were late. So much easier with text and cell phone. So that has been our world. It's been, you need to keep yourself current. That's, you got to get out of your comfort zone. You have to network with people. It's not, our industry, you can't really operate in that silo. So moving forward, though, I am a little worried about commitment level. I hear a lot of talk in my offices about life balance, and I know everyone wants that, but I don't know that our business necessarily allows it because we're 24/7 kind of business when we're on. So my advice to people is live the lifestyle, make it a lifestyle job, find some ways to enjoy yourself. I laugh when I tell my people all my best lead producers play golf. and Bob, I guess we have that in common, but if I've got to spend 4 hours, 5 hours, and the client does, let's do something we like to do together. So that's my fear for the future, is that commitment.
Okay. Liz?
Sure. As far as changes in the last 20 years, it's kind of funny, jokingly, I wrote down everything. I mean, definitely a lot has changed over 20 years. Marilyn touched on technology, I think how we sell and the use of the internet and electronic proposals, some of that in my role doing global sales, some of that is, the human connection piece has gone unless a client is interested and they want to move forward. So I would say, how we sell has definitely changed. There's other things, C-Vent, how we source, security, things that maybe 20 years we didn't have to worry about having a risk, management plan in place, socially conscious issues, the environment, human trafficking, things that definitely are affecting our industry that I think we're doing a great job of championing for, but those are all things that 20 years, we didn't necessarily have to worry about. As far as concerns for the next 20 years, I wouldn't say that I have that anything scares me. I think our industry is certainly awesome. There's value in the experiences, the traveling, the making the memories. Madalyn mentioned staying relevant. I would say, if there is a concern, it's staying relevant in the next 20 years. This is a relationship industry, so maintaining strong relationships when everyone's doing more with less. People can also be located anywhere. So I think geography is changing. I might be calling on a company in Dallas, but their meeting planner might be in California. So I think that's something that we just have to, maybe change how we connect with people in the next 20 years. And as far as, what encourages me in the next 20 years, I think we're an industry where we always have to outdo what we did before. We're innovative, digging deeper. So I love that we as an industry are learning more about, the science behind human behavior and, intentionally focusing on event design. I can only imagine what our industry is going to look like in 20 years. I think it's going to be really awesome.
Great, thank you. What I'm going to do is we're going to end on time because we always do, and I'm going to read Bob's questions and leave them up. Here's the questions. So what Bob would want to talk to you about is regarding your clients and their destination decisions. So when selecting an incentive destination for a client, what are the key drivers that ultimately choose one destination over another? The key drivers and what makes a destination be chosen. And then, do you see an increase in clients becoming more open to unique and new destinations like to Dubai, or do they prefer sticking with locations they know will work and be comfortable with their attendees? That's number two. What typically are the major concerns when selecting a destination for their internal, external incentive programs? And how important is it that the client sees the destination in person before making the decision on the location? So what we'll do is everybody who wrote and has participated in this, we'll send you a list of those questions by tomorrow. And then if you'll take the time to give us feedback for Bob, we'll take you and the spouse out to lunch someplace for your effort, the one who comes up with some of the best insight, and we'll do that for you by the first of the week. So I'd like to now thank our panelists. Bob, you gave us a great perspective. I know you've got a great product. You were open and honest. I thank you for that. Liz, you're always top of mind with me. If I think mountains, I think Liz. But that's because all the work that you do in Madalyn. You may be the only person in the industry longer than me. I'm not sure. But I do know this. Every time I've ever called up Madalyn and I need something fast and I need something thorough, it's delivered. And that's my one thing about the industry that I have the most hope for. You can't replace seeing somebody in the eye and shaking their hands with a computer screen. And we'll still be a relationship business 20 years from now. So panelists, thank you. Participants, thank you very much. And we look forward to our next webinar, which will be announced shortly. And don't forget to keep this site, smart form, in mind. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim. Have a great day.
Okay, thanks.